Hey everybody, what's going on? Dan Schmidt here. Finally having time to do this video. Wanted to do it last week. Got the bird on my shoulder, little rosebud, little Rosie Bork parakeet. She's a pink bird with like a little bit of blue and black feathers on her. So the wife's bird. She always wanted one like that. So I want a bigger one than that, but maybe one day we'll see. But a little bit about me, how I got into trucking. Um, when I was about 14 years old or so, my brother-in-law, um, been married to my sister for a couple years, and I got to go with him on his truck. He drove for a small mom and pop company for a couple years, and then he got his own truck and got his own authority and everything like that. And I went with him several times on the truck, and kind of developed into a love for the truck, and kind of always thought it'd be something that I'd want to do one day. Um, about when I was like 14 or 15 maybe. And, I never really capitalized on it. Did a bunch of different jobs right out of high school. I did plumbing. I did landscaping. I did car sales. I tried windshield replacements, landscaping again. I tried a bunch of different things. I worked for my dad some. And then I went to do security work, and then I went to work at a warehouse. And all came down to it. I decided, you know what, I got to get back and finding what I want to do, what I love to do. And I think the only thing left is to try truck driving, see if it was something I wanted to do. So I went out and started looking for companies. Figured I got to find a company that is going to pay for my training. I looked at a couple different companies, and I know about some of the other big carriers that will pay for your training, but not really the best reputation. And so I kind of skipped over a couple other companies, but I settled on PAM Transport. And I hit them up, got a hold of them, and said, hey, I want to try out truck driving, see what happens. And a recruiter got me to a school down in Philadelphia, and set up, time to go to the school and start my training. And so I did that, and I went down to the school for 6 weeks. It wasn't far from where I lived, but I stayed at a motel over in New Jersey, right across the river. Downside with that is we had to cross the bridge every day. We had to pay $5 to come across the bridge, so we carpooled a lot coming back and forth. But yeah, 6 weeks of training. Yeah, I could have done it in about 3 or 4, but they had a backlog of a bunch of students that were there from a couple weeks where they had bad weather and stuff like that. So by week 6, I was ready to test. They had me in the system, and I took my test, passed it on the first try, no problem. And I set up orientation with PAM Transport to go over to them, and down in Arkansas is where they sent us for orientation. Got down to orientation and found out that a lot of the people that were at the school that had tested around the same time I did were down at the orientation, the same orientation I was sent to, which was pretty cool. We kind of had a little group down there. We hung out a lot, did a lot. We went out to eat almost every night together at the motel and stuff like that. And so I did the first week of orientation with PAM Transport, and then they sent me to a motel in Ohio to wait for my trainer to pick me up to go out on the road for about 2 to 3 weeks with the trainer. And I sat in that motel room for about a week, and I was texting the trainer. I'm like, hey, when are you gonna come pick me up? I kept getting a hold of him, like what's going on? And he kept saying, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure when I'm going to get there yet. And on Tuesday of that first week that I was there, another guy from, I forget where he's from, like Missouri or something. He had already decided to go with Schneider by Tuesday of that week. He had applied there before. They had called him back, and so he had set up orientation to go to Schneider already. And so of course that had my head, kind of thinking, hey, maybe I'm going to check them out too. So by Friday, I had enough. Pam wasn't calling me to tell me what was going on. I had to call the guy myself, the trainer. I had to call him myself and find out where he was. He didn't know when he was going to make it back yet. He said, I don't know, maybe Wednesday or something of next week. I'm like, that's just insane. That's too long for me. All my friends that were at orientation with me, they're all out there posting, oh, I'm in, Texas this week. I'm headed to Missouri. I'm headed to, Jacksonville, Florida. Like, I'm watching all my friends have fun in the truck driving and going all over the country. And I'm still sitting in Youngstown, Ohio, waiting for the trainer. And so I said, and that's enough. And Friday afternoon, I went on Schneider.com. I looked at a couple of their job opportunities. I filled out an application for the Northeast Regional position that they offered, and seemed like an okay deal for me. Getting home, every weekend, making decent money. So that's what I applied for. And Monday morning, I got a phone call from a recruiter saying, hey, is this something you're interested in? Get a little bit of information about me and stuff, a little backstory. And they said, hey, everything sounds good so far. It sounds like, this is a position that might work for you. We take on a lot of new drivers and everything like that. And so they said, let's have an official phone interview tomorrow, which would have been Tuesday of that week. And I said, yeah, let's do it. If I'm still at the motel, I'll be able to answer the phone. So yeah, well, let's set that up. So I had to wait till the next day, got the next person that called, and we had a little, interview over the phone. Once again, asking about the same questions, what am I really looking for in the company? What am I expecting to get out of the company? Stuff like that. And everything was fine there. We both agreed this is, we want to move forward with this. And so I said, let's set up orientation. And that's what we did. We set it up for what was, come on, Birdie, move. There you go. Don't hiss at me. We set it up for May 24th. No, not my neck. No, not back there. Psst, 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 hissing at me. She wants to climb up behind my neck. But we set up orientation for May 24th of 2016. And that was several weeks away. It was about 2.5, almost 3 weeks. And hi. What are you doing? So I went back home. First I called Pam and I said, hey, I quit. I got another job. I was like, you guys left me hanging. You didn't communicate with me. And I said, I don't like that. I don't like people wasting my time. It's a pet peeve of mine. I hate that. And so I said, I quit. And they're like, well, where are you going? They're asking questions. I'm like, I'm going to Schneider because, it sounds like they have trainers as soon as you're out of orientation the first week, like they're ready to go. You don't have to wait for anybody. You guys left me hanging. It sounds like they're not going to, so I'm going to take a chance. Plus, it sounds like I get home every weekend, whereas Pam is offering me, you stay out 3 weeks at a time and you might get 3 days at home. I don't like that kind of a question mark. I kind of want to know what's happening and what's going on. So I said, get me a bus ticket home. I said, I quit. I'm done. And that's what they did. They got the bus ticket home. And I went to work for my dad for a couple weeks. I kind of helped him out here and there. He has his own business, kind of a jack of all trades type of thing. And so I went to work for him. I did spackling for the first time. I had never done that before. That was interesting. The drywall was pretty much all up when I got there to the house that he was working on, right down the street from where he lives. And they said, we got to do spackling. I'm like, I've never done it. I don't know anything about it. So they handed me some tools and said, here, do it like this. And they're starting, taking the hand, oh, do this. And then, wipe it off and clean it off a little bit. And I figured it out. And I got pretty good at it, I think. In one house, I would feel comfortable doing it again, even my own property, or if I was paid to do it somewhere else, I would feel comfortable doing it again. And so I did that. I did a couple other things. He had some, odds and end jobs that he needed done. So I helped him out with that. And then went to orientation at Schneider, and orientation went good. And I went out on the road with a trainer. It was supposed to be for a week. I got 2 days. I got 2 days with the trainer because we went from Massachusetts, which was where the trainer was, their Shrewsbury yard. Went from there over to New York. And then we were headed back to, the next day, we were headed back to Massachusetts, to Uxbridge. He was on the BJ's account. I believe he still is somewhat, but I think they kind of bounce him around here and there. But yeah, so we went back to Uxbridge, Massachusetts to the BJ's. We got about 2 miles from the exit, and it was dark out. I was driving. I had been the whole day. He wasn't even behind the seat that second day. I did the whole day so far. And it was probably 8 hours of driving, I'm gonna say. And we only stopped maybe once or twice maybe, I think. And so I was driving. It was dark, and I looked up ahead, and I saw a deer in the road. Well, you can guess what I'm about to say is going to happen. So I'm watching this deer. It's crossing the road. Got across my lane. I was in the right lane. Got across my lane over to the barrier, and I'm watching. I'm like, ah, she's going to jump the barrier. I'm okay. I'm still slowing down, but you know, I assume she's gone. She's going on the other side. No big deal. All of a sudden, yep, she darted back in front of me, right in front of the truck. I'm like, ah, like I don't know what I said, what I yelled, but I kind of like grabbed the wheel and was like, oh no, like I knew not to slam on the brakes, I knew not to try to steer fast to get out of the way. I knew you just hold on, and whatever happens, happens. You're not gonna damage yourself by staying straight. You're gonna just kill a deer. So I held on, and he was kind of looking away at that point, and he hadn't seen he hadn't seen that. I don't even think he saw the deer. I don't even think he knew there was a deer until I kind of reacted like, oh no, like, I think then he kind of was looking up and was like, he saw it instantly. And then I hit it kind of on the passenger side. It had already got across and almost out of my way, but I slammed into it and both headlights got knocked out on the front of the truck. And so we pulled over on the side of the road, but we were like 2 miles away, and he said, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. A little shook up, didn't expect that. And don't poop on me. You probably are. Yeah, you did. Bird poops on you every time you hold her. But so I said, I'll keep going because with the four ways on, I have enough light. I can see kind of where I'm going, so I think I'm okay. It's like 2 miles. And so that's what we did. Four ways on. We drove the last 2 miles and got into the distribution center. And we got one headlight back working. The passenger side, we couldn't get that back, but we got the driver's side back working. The plug had just rattled loose a little bit, and we kind of looked at the front of the tractor, and it was pretty messed up. It was pretty broken. The hood was messed up, and he had to get a new hood and all that. But we got one headlight working, and we drove it back to Shrewsbury, and it was a little bit warm out. It was like 75 degrees, maybe almost 80. And so I had to stay in the truck, and I was like, should I leave it running? Like, I don't know if there's any damage, if it's something I, should shut off. He's like, we drove it here. There's no problem. It's not overheating. He's like, as long as you're in the truck and it seems okay. He said, yeah, you can leave it run. And he said, I'm going home, which he did. He lived over in Connecticut, but not far away. It was pretty close, half hour maybe. So he went home, and I stayed in the truck overnight. And I got woke up in the morning by the garage people that were there. They have like a small. They recently put a bigger building in with like an office and everything. I guess a couple garage bays, brand new building that they just put in. But back then, it was still there was like a little like a lean-to, or I don't know what you want to call it. It wasn't much of a shed, but that's where they had that's where they did their work in. And so they came out and they's like, hey, your truck's damaged. We think you should shut it off because we don't want it to, cause a problem. I'm like, it's been running like this all night, but that's fine. I'll shut it off. No big deal. And so I did. And I sat there and sweated my butt off until he got there in his truck, his pickup truck, and picked me up. We drove around a little bit. He's like, I don't know what to do really. He's like, well, they're not working on the truck yet. Let's go back and go over some log stuff. And, I'll show you a couple things. And, so that's what he did, Don't hiss at me. So he showed me a couple things on the logs and things like that. And then he called, my DBL, and he's like, what do we do? And they're like, well, your truck's down for a while. And, they're like, they found him something to do. He recovered a truck, and I don't know what else he did. He might have taken the rest of the week off, but they sent me back to the OC and back to the motel. I got back there on Thursday. And I went back to orientation on Monday morning, and I forget what day it was that week, for Thursday or Friday, when we tested all of us out. I had 2 days of on the road training, but I passed the upgrade test. Um, with no problems, everything was fine, and started the Northeast Regional position that I applied for. And I did Northeast Regional for about 2.5 months. And my DBL, I had talked to him a few times saying I wouldn't mind, a little more home time, and I wouldn't mind more consistent pay. I may make less money some weeks than others. Like I may have better weeks on Northeast Regional, but at least I'll know what I'm getting paid. It'll be consistent. And so he talked to the CHEP account manager delivering CHEP pallets, and um, that guy called me, and he said, "Hey, I heard you're interested in the CHEP account." And I was like, "Well, I don't know anything about it. Sure, what do you got? Tell me what it is." He told me, "Oh, you get home every single day. Sometimes you end up splitting the truck with another driver, where that you share the truck, daytime and nighttime." And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "That sounds like something I'd like. It's pay per day, so you know what you're getting paid every day. The consistency was there." Started at 168 a day, and it went to 172. And I don't know if that's all the CHEP account all across the U.S. I imagine it's not, but that's where it was. That's what it was where I was, Allentown, Pennsylvania area. At the time, that's what they were paying, and pay changes all the time, so it could be anything. But for 6 days, it was an okay paycheck especially for just starting out, brand new driver. And so I did that from